6 years ago, my parents ruined their relationship with me once and for all with one comment. They told me that my business was going to fail and that they were very confident about it, and instead of leaving and trying to strike out on my own, I should have just stuck with my dad's company and kept it within the family. 6 years back, at the age of 29, I decided to quit my job at my dad's company and try to build something of my own. It came as a shock to them, but I had been thinking about it for quite a while because I knew I didn't have a future as a leader in this company. That was reserved for my older brother. I knew that they would never let me take over after my dad retired, even though I was more qualified and hard-working than my brother. That did not matter to them. He was older, and he was obviously the golden child, so everything was going to be served up to him on a silver platter. I had already fought with them regarding this numerous times, but my parents had made up their mind, and there was just no changing it. Which is why I decided to leave. They were not happy about my decision. They tried to get me to change my mind, but I stuck to my guns. I already had a lot of experience because right after I finished business school, I had started working for my father. In fact, right from when I was in high school and through college, I had kept myself in the loop regarding business and always took a keen interest in how everything was going and learned the ropes pretty quickly. My brother never bothered. He always treated this job as more of an obligation rather than something he actually wanted to do, even though my father was more interested in training him compared to me. But he took everything for granted, and even then my parents were blind to every fault of his. Anyway, since I knew a lot about my dad's company, I decided to go into business in that field itself. I will not go into the specifics of it. I don't want to give away my identity, but my parents knew that if I did well, I would end up being competition to my brother. And even though they will never admit it, I know for a fact that the reason they tried to convince me that I would fail if I broke apart from the family was because they wanted to demoralize me. They wanted me to have second thoughts, just because they didn't want me to do better than my brother. But I didn't let that stop me. I worked hard, and in the past 6 years, I've been able to build a profitable business. We are planning on expanding and scaling up, and the future looks bright for us. It's obviously not been easy, starting from scratch. There have been a few ups and downs, but we've come through it, and right now I would say I'm in a pretty good place career-wise, and I'm proud of myself. In the past 6 years, my parents and I have met, but I've always maintained my distance from them. We usually don't speak beyond the preliminary greetings and the formalities when we come across each other, and that is only when we get invited to the same events. But apart from that, we hardly see each other, and as for my brother, I don't even speak to him. I never had a fight with him or anything, but I guess I resented him for the fact that he took everything for granted, whereas I had to fight for everything. To be honest, he never cared for me much. He never had my back, and we hardly felt like brothers to each other because we were never close. So losing him was not that difficult. With my parents, I'll admit, even though they always treated me like I was less important than my brother, I still couldn't help myself, but I had certain expectations from them. But I was always let down. So after that comment, I had made up my mind. I was not going to let them get in my way anymore. And I was not going to let them under my skin either. It took a lot for me to stop expecting anything from them at all. But I would say that I'm there now. And I thought that it would be the same way for them as well. But it turns out it's not, because a couple of days back, they reached out to me asking if they could meet me. I didn't reply to that, so they took it upon themselves to show up at my house with my brother. I was a bit surprised, but I still let them in, since I had no idea what I was in for. Anyway, once they were inside, we made some small talk and then they got to the point. They told me that the business was failing and my brother wanted to quit. Now, since my brother wanted out, because he had realized that he never really wanted to be a businessman anyway, my parents were desperate to keep the company in the family. And that's why they were here to ask me to take over. They wanted to have a merger with my company since they thought that it would be profitable for them because financially they were doing pretty badly and they believed that I would be the only person who would be able to rescue them at this stage. My dad was retired, and sure, he could come back, but it was way too much for him to handle on his own, and so they needed me to help them. Obviously, it was a lot to take in at once, but I can't say that I didn't see it coming. The thing is, I was not happy about the fact that they had suddenly come to me just because they needed me to bail them out of a difficult situation. Secondly, they had not even apologized for not having any faith in me and actually told me I was going to fail all those years ago. It felt like they didn't even remember that, which is strange because it was actually after that we didn't end up talking for quite a while. So it's impossible that they didn't know that it was that comment which was the last straw for me. Anyway, I already had a hint that this might happen sometime in future because, of course, I had kept myself in the loop since they were my competition and I knew they were not doing well. But I didn't know exactly how badly they were doing. That didn't become clear until they visited me and my dad discussed the numbers with me. And I realized that they were doing pretty badly under my brother. He was not even quitting on his own. It was what everybody wanted. So it was basically him resigning so he could save face. But in reality, the board wanted him gone as well. I don't know if he was happy about it or not. I didn't bother to ask, but at the end of their visit, when my dad asked me for an answer, I told him I would have to think about it because I honestly didn't know what to do, since the numbers were pretty bad, but salvageable. I mean, it would be a bit of a gamble, but in business, what isn't? The point was I willing to risk anything to help them? That's what I would have to think about because let's be real, family loyalty was not an actual incentive for me. In the past 6 years, whatever little bond I had with them had been ruined, and they didn't do anything to save it either, so it was pretty clear that they did not value me beyond my business acumen. And that's why I was just thinking like a businessman, not as their son or member of the family or anything. I guess they didn't expect that. They probably thought I was just going to agree to everything without a second thought. And when I told them that I needed some time to think about what I wanted to do, they were kind of shocked. My brother didn't have anything to say, but my parents started trying to emotionally manipulate me, saying that they were my family and this was the least I could do for them after everything they had done for me. Again, that is laughable because they have barely done anything for me that normal parents don't do. So I don't think there's anything to brag about, and I told them as much. I also told them they had told me that I was going to fail, and they have not apologized for that. And yet they have the audacity to expect and demand help from me in a situation like this without even owning up to their mistakes. We got into a bit of an argument and my parents started telling me I should be helping them out without any second thoughts in order to keep the business in the family, and I ended up telling them that it was not my company. That had been made very clear to me right in the beginning, so now they have no right to expect anything from me. That effectively ended the argument and they left. But since then, this has been weighing on me because I don't know if I did the right thing or not. Losing the company, that's a pretty big deal. At the rate that they're going without my help, they're either going to have to shut down or they're going to have to sell. And both of those are pretty bad options because I know for a fact that the company has been in the family for the past 2 generations, since my grandfather started it, and it's going to shatter my father to lose it. But again, after what they did to me, after how they treated me, I don't know if it's the right thing to do to go back to them, even if it's just for the business deal. And to be honest, it's not going to be that profitable a deal for me. If I do end up doing it, it's going to be pretty clear that I'm just doing it for the sake of my family. They need the merger far more than I do. They need my help the most. I don't really need them. So the decision about the company has to come from a purely emotional place, because business-wise, it would be safer not to take the risk, if you know what I mean. And right now, I just have no idea what to do. I'm torn. WIBTA if I decided that I don't want anything to do with my father's company and choose not to help them right now. Edit. I have spoken to my colleagues and the people I work with, and for the most part, they have told me that if I do decide to get involved, they will be able to make it to work. With our resources, the merger could potentially save them and maybe work for us as well. And like I said, yes, there is a risk, but that's common for everything. That's nothing new for business people, and what I meant by saying that it would be safer not to take the risk right now was basically just that our company is in a good position financially. So we don't really need this merger, we don't really need that risk. We're doing fine without it as well, which is why I said that this had to come from an emotional place, if that makes sense. I hope that has been cleared up now and that there is no confusion regarding it anymore. Update 1. Hey everybody, so it's been a couple of days since my last update and I still haven't been able to make up my mind. Honestly, I'm just very confused. And my parents are not helping the situation. They sent me an email last evening saying they were very sorry about everything that they had said in the past. If that's what I want to hear, I just don't understand why they couldn't have apologized and ended it instead of adding that unnecessary remark after it. They could have just said that they were sorry even if they didn't mean it. It would have been better at least. They need my help. And yet they're not willing to be a little less narcissistic. Makes no sense to me at all. Anyway, that's how they started off, and instantly I didn't want to read the rest of the email, but I still powered through it because I was curious to know what they had to say. They went on to tell me that they needed a decision by the end of the month, which is in 2 weeks. Because otherwise, they're going to have to make some tough choices. And I know they mean that they're either going to have to sell or shut down. But they don't want to say it out loud. Once again, they brought up the fact that this had been in our family, and this is our family's legacy, and yes, they had treated me badly in the past. They do acknowledge that, but I'm just being petty by trying to get back at them because I'm not looking at the bigger picture. They said I also could have come to them. I could have tried to fix the situation as well, but instead I chose to stay away from them. I chose to distance myself, and I can't blame them for that. I mean, they've got to be kidding me. Even in a situation like this, they're trying to make it seem like it's both our faults, which it's really not. That's not the case at all, and I can't imagine why they can't just accept it. Everything would be so much easier if they just accepted that this was a fault. But they are making it more difficult just for themselves, but also for me. Because I understand the emotional aspect of it. I understand that this is our family's legacy and I have the opportunity to save it. But the way they're behaving is getting more and more difficult to keep reminding myself of what I'm going to lose because I just want to teach them a lesson. Again, that sounds petty, but I can't help it. Anyway, I'm still trying to make up my mind. I've been speaking to my friends and the rest of my family as well. Of course, I'm trying to make sure that this doesn't reach other people, so I'm keeping it within a very small circle. It's just a couple of my cousins that I really trust and a few friends. And all of them have had the same thing to say to me. that this is something where I have to make my own decision and go with whatever my gut says. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be my money at stake, and it's going to be me who's going to have to deal with everything. So whatever they say, whatever advice they have to give me, doesn't matter. That's true. But the problem is, I don't really know what my gut says, honestly. And I truly know that a lot of people in the comments of my original post said I should just stay away from my parents and not have anything to do with them. But again, I can't ignore the emotional aspect of the whole thing. I can't ignore the fact that we are going to be losing our family business if I choose to decline to help them. I don't know if I'll be able to deal with that on my conscience. So I guess you guys can see why this is a complicated decision for me. And yeah, I just don't know what to do. If anybody has any sort of advice for me, that would be more than welcome, because at this point, with just 2 weeks for me to make up my mind about something that is such a huge deal, I think I'll need all the help I can get. I just wish my parents could be normal, and then this would not be a dilemma at all. In fact, if my parents had been normal, I probably would have been working with them instead of against them. None of this would have happened in the first place. But they chose to be awful people, and even worse, parents, and now they are the ones suffering the most. If they had been normal people and good parents, who knows? I might even have had a good relationship with my brother, but unfortunately, even that did not work out in our favor. No matter how much I try, ultimately, it all comes back to my parents and how they have failed. Not just me, also my brother and the business as well. If they could just acknowledge that once, if they could just accept that this is all their fault, things would have been different. But they can't even do that. I really don't even have anything to say to them or about them anymore. I just don't. Update 2. Hey, so there's just 1 week to work before I have to tell my parents about my decision, and I'm still taking my time. I don't care if I'm being unfair to them or whatever. This is a huge thing that they are burdening me with. I need to consider everything. If that means that I'm going to have to take my own time and that I'm going to have to keep them waiting until the last possible moment, then so be it. They didn't bother me after that email, but today my dad showed up at my workplace, and that really crosses a line. It's not even like he was being polite about the whole thing. He showed up while I was in a meeting, and he started demanding to see me. When the receptionist said that I was in a meeting, he refused to wait, and he started heading towards my office. But thankfully, my co-workers intervened and called security on him. There was a huge fuss about it. He was yelling a lot, and I had to end my meeting abruptly so I could deal with this whole thing. And it was pretty embarrassing, but then I dragged him out away from the workplace so we could speak in person, because I did not want any of this discussion happening in front of my employees. And enough had happened already, and I would have to smooth over that. I didn't want more trouble. Once we had walked a safe distance away from the office, I got him to come to a nearby coffee shop with me, and thankfully it was mostly vacant. Finally, I had the opportunity to speak to him, frankly and clearly. I told him that he was not helping his case by throwing tantrums like this, and he and my mom really needed to get a grip, because they were not entitled to do anything, not even my kindness or empathy. They had not apologized for anything they had done, and in the end, if I do decide to save the company, it's going to be in spite of them and not because of them. So far, everything that they have been doing has been working against them, because their behavior has been nothing short of distasteful and horrible. They are incredibly difficult to deal with, and the fact that they don't even realize that they are actually relying on me for my help, and they are making everything worse for both of us, that's what ticks me off the most, because I didn't even know it was possible for human beings to lack self-awareness at this level. I told him that he needs my help. Then he should act like it instead of acting like he's entitled to it, because let's be real. Nobody's entitled to anybody's help after they have treated the other person like how my parents have always treated me. That got him to shut up because he probably didn't think that I was going to have an outburst like this. Which is crazy because it's been 6 years. And yes, I'm not much of a confrontational person, but I've had enough. They can't possibly think that they can keep putting me through their crap over and over again and I'll just keep taking it. That's delusional on another level. And yet, here we are. Anyway, after my outburst, he told me that he would keep it in mind. And then he started saying that as my father, he just thought that he was entitled to his own child's help. But clearly, I was too big of a hotshot to care about my family now. I knew exactly what he was trying to do, and I was not going to let that guilt trip work on me. So I told him to cut it out and told him that he could not manipulate me, so he had better let it be because I could see through it. His whole act was so transparent, I was not buying it at all. I told him that if he had ever treated me like his own child, like he had treated my brother, then maybe things would have been different. But it was their own fault. And I wanted him to think about it. I wanted both him and my mother to think about the fact that if they had been good parents to me, then they would not be in this situation at all. I also told them that in the end, if I decide to save the company, I'm still not going to have anything to do with them on a personal level. They have lost me forever, and that's that. I told him that next time he decided to bother me, I would not be dealing with him on my own. But I would get the cops to do it on my behalf, and that would not look pretty for him. That seemed to finally get to him, and he kept quiet as I walked off. When I finally got back to work, I had to deal with everything, but thankfully, people were nice enough and I didn't feel more embarrassment. But still, whatever happened should not have happened. And I'm going to make sure that security doesn't even let my father in the next time that he shows up. And I'm hoping he doesn't show up at all after what happened today. Because I really can't imagine it ending well for anybody at all. And I'm honestly just sick of everything that's been going on. In the end, I might just decide to help them out just to get them off my back at this point. Because I don't want that and I don't need more drama. But anyway, I'm going to think about it for a couple more days and see how it works out. Update 3. Hey, so there are just 3 days to go before I have to tell them about my decision. And today, I told my parents I'm going to be saving the company. I have agreed to the merger with them, but let's keep in mind that it's not for their sake, and it's just for the family business. I figured that in the end, this might end up becoming profitable for me. And who knows, if I have kids and they want to go to business, I'll have something to pass on to them. So I'm doing this with perfectly selfish motives and maybe a little bit of family sentimentality, but it's not for my parents. I remember that my grandparents always treated me well, particularly my grandfather. He passed away a couple of years back, and I know that he would be hurt if his company were to shut down because I know how much hard work and how much love and how much of his soul he poured into his work. So it was actually he who influenced my decision the most. And I guess I should have spoken about it before, but honestly, I didn't even know why I was having such a hard time making up my mind in spite of my parents' behavior until a couple of days back. It took me a while to realize that one of the biggest reasons why I didn't want to let go of the family business in its entirety was because of my grandpa. And then that realization came. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So now, the paperwork has been initiated, and soon enough, I hope that it's all going to be done. I was very cold when I informed my parents of this, and they tried to thank me. They tried to tell me that they would never be able to repay my favor and all of that, but I told them very politely that I was not doing this for them, and that on a personal level, I would still not have anything to do with them, which is what I had said to my father, but I don't think he had taken it seriously. He tried to get me to forgive them really hard, but I didn't even bother listening. I hung up on them, and I knew that there was no way they were going to let this affect anything business-wise, so I don't really care. My brother has already resigned. He's on his notice period right now. He sent me a message a couple of hours ago thanking me, saying that he would like to talk to me sometime. I don't know what that was for, but I guess I might talk to him. I mean, I'm doing a bunch of new things anyway. Might as well try this too. Something good might actually come out of it, but I'm not getting my hopes up. Update 4. So it's been a couple of months and the merger has been announced. All the paperwork has been processed and I have officially taken over both companies. It's been going well so far, and I guess it was a risk worth taking, at least for my grandpa. I hope he's happy about what I chose, and I hope that this works out well for me in the future. I'm still not on speaking terms with my parents, even though they tried to make it work with me for a couple of weeks after my last update. But when they realized I meant what I said, they stopped. I don't mind, and I don't really care. As for my brother, we didn't end up talking, and he poured his heart out to me. He told me he never even wanted to take over the company, and he had declined several times, but our father had forced him. He actually wanted to write, so now he's going to devote his time to doing that. He works as a freelance writer, and it's not like he's making a ton of money, but at least he's happy. We are actively trying to improve our relationship, and I wouldn't say that we are the best of friends, but at least we are not doing as badly as we used to, so that's something. Obviously, it's going to take a long, long time to fix everything because for most of our lives, we were at odds with each other, but at least now we are trying to correct it. Anyway, I would say that life is going pretty well. I don't regret anything that I did, and I think I made the right choice. I'm happy, and that's enough for me. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.